I want to talk a little about Max Fried. He wrote in your notes column the other day how he adjusted to change. And with Matt Blake, the pitching coach with the Yankees, like, what were those changes? And explain to us why he's gotten so much better when he was already an elite pitcher.
I thought this was really interesting, Todd, and it goes back to when they signed Fried. They had a Zoom with him, and this was reported at the time that initially the Yankees thought, we'll check in with him, but he's probably not coming to us. But Fried was very interested in the Yankees, and he was asking them questions. How can I get better? What do you guys see? What can I do? And from that moment, the Yankees were kind of taken by him, and they thought, wow, this really is possible for us. And of course, they signed him. 8 years, $218 million. And the way Matt Blake described it, they've basically done a lot of tweaking, making his pitches different shapes, making them even better. They've worked on a lot of different aspects of each of his 7 individual pitches. And it's working for him. In the notes column that I wrote, I asked Enos Saris, who's our main data guy at The Athletic, I said, hey, tell me what's going on with Fried. Tell me what's different. And there's a lot that's different. The drop on his pitches is more significant, the breaking stuff. And he's using the sweeper against righties. He's doing things that he hasn't necessarily done before. And yes, this appears to be the best version of Max Fried we've seen. And as you said, Todd, we've seen Max Fried really good. So it's a testament to his openness to new ideas. And it's a testament also to the Yankees being able to find these different areas that he could use to improve.
You know, a team that doesn't need to improve? The hottest team in baseball right now, the Royals. How can you be 15-2 in your last 17 games and still need help? Not believe in the 15-2?
Oh, I believe in it from the pitching perspective. And the one thing I pointed out is this has been a relatively soft part of their schedule. They've had the White Sox, they've had the Rockies, they've had the Orioles not playing particularly well, Tampa Bay not playing particularly well. So, listen, you have to win against the opponents in front of you, and they have done that. But offensively, they are still toward the bottom of the league. Their outfield is one of the worst outfields from an offensive production standpoint in the league. So, yes, they're going to need help offensively. They recognize that, and they recognize it probably will be in their outfield. If you remember, I reported, I don't remember, spring training it was, that they pursued Anthony Santander. There was a reason they pursued Anthony Santander. That kind of guy is still somebody that they need. Now, if Pasquantino gets going a little bit, they'll be in a better spot, and some others get going a little bit. But the outfield is still a weakness, and it's still something that I expect them to address at some point before the deadline.
Something that we thought they needed to address all offseason was the Mariners' offense. Well, I guess we were wrong. All they needed was Kevin Seitzer and to re-sign Jorge Polanco.
Eric, this is one of the most surprising things about the season so far, how well they've played offensively. And I don't know if it's just the new hitting coaches. I can't tell exactly what's going on. I don't know that anyone can. But they're striking out a lot less. They're hitting home runs. They're walking at a very high rate. They're leading the majors in walks. Those are all good formulas for success. And they've also gotten contributions from Leo Rivas and Williamson at third base, the rookie, and Miles Mastrobuoni. All these different guys have kind of helped them along. And they've gotten superstar production from Cal Raleigh and Jorge Polanco. Dylan Moore has been a big part of what they've done. So it all seems to be clicking for them right now. How long it can last, I don't know. Is Jorge Polanco going to have an 1,100 OPS all season long? I tend to doubt it. But with all this said, Julio Rodriguez really has not gotten hot yet. So these things tend to balance out. Some guys regress in a negative way. Some guys regress in a positive way. And clearly, with their pitching, even though they've lost George Kirby and Logan Gilbert for a time, they're going to be a formidable team in what appears to be a weaker AL West than maybe we thought.
It is complicated enough to figure out what type of car you want, but when it comes to pricing and best time to buy and all of that information that you're looking for, Car Gurus is the only destination that you should be thinking about, Kratz. Why?
Because I don't have to question what the price is. It's going to be there. If the price changes and comes down to where I want it to be, bang, I get a notification. Car Gurus is giving it to me straight, and this is how I want to purchase a car. Not fast. I just want to know what's going on.
With over 4 million listings, Car Gurus has more car listings than any other major online automotive marketplace in the US. So you can find the best deal, and it's no wonder SimilarWeb estimated traffic data shows Car Gurus is the #1 most visited car shopping site. So you can buy or sell your next car today with Car Gurus at cargurus.com. Go to cargurus.com to make sure your big deal is the best deal. That's cargurus.com, cargurus.com.
You had some good analysis on the A's in your notes column, who are also in the same division, making that division tougher and making the Mariners start here even more important because there's clearly going to be tough games in the division. But can you tell us a little bit more about the A's and what we should be paying attention to in Sacramento?
It's interesting, Eric. Often with the defensive metrics, I get upset because they will disagree with each other. I'm talking about outside average and defensive runs saved. Sometimes one of those stats will portray a player or team favorably while the other does not, and I just throw up my hands and say, what are we doing here? In this particular case, A's team defense, they are last in outs above average and they are last in defensive runs saved. That tells me, even though it's a relatively small sample at this point, that they're not a very good defensive team. And clearly they are not. So when they play good defense, it seems they generally win. And when they don't, things happen and they don't have good outcomes. So that's something, I don't know that you can fix it necessarily in season, but it's kind of a work in progress. They've got Soderstrom out in left field now because Kurtz is at first base. And that seems to be going well. Kurtz is a good defender. Jacob Wilson has improved at shortstop. Third base is a bit of a question because they want Andujar's bat in the lineup. He's not a great third baseman necessarily. So they've got some different kinds of issues going on. J.J. Bleday not playing well in center. At the same time, they've been more competitive than most of us would think they would have been. They're over 500. They've played pretty well, I would say, for the most part. And I expect that that will continue.
Ken, you wrote an article a few days ago about Perdomo, the shortstop for the Diamondbacks, and how when he came into the league, he was a rookie who was kind of taken the wrong way by veterans. Is that something that he then needed Torey Lovullo to say, hey, you know what, just be you? Or is it something that him and Torey Lovullo, you talked about in the article, had arguments, but it elevated his game to be the person that he is today, or stayed the same person and then just became a great player?
He stayed the same person. And what was going on in the clubhouse with his teammates and what was going on with Lovullo were really two different things. Some of the veterans took a little exception to his energy and his enthusiasm, his constant chatter. They just thought, this kid, it's too much. And what's interesting is the one guy who didn't think it was too much, who eventually came around to Perdomo, according to Perdomo, was the king of the old school, Madison Bumgarner. And eventually, too, other players, and Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly talked about this with me as I was doing the article. They said, listen, we came to realize that's just him. And he's now a leader of our team. Zach Gallen said he's like the captain, the heartbeat of our club. And from that perspective, it just took time for players to accept him. And probably they should have accepted him sooner. This was a losing team at the time, though. They lost 110 the first year Perdomo was up. So some of his enthusiasm in that situation didn't play as well as it might have in others. Now, with regard to Lovullo, it was a different question and a different concern. Lovullo wanted Perdomo to become more of a leader, become the quarterback of the infield. And he was hard on him in getting Perdomo to kind of understand that role, understand what is expected of him. And that took time. And one of the interesting things I thought that came out of the story was just how that manager-player relationship evolved. It wasn't so smooth at the beginning, and now it's as good as it can be. They have nonverbal communication, they have verbal communication, and from that perspective, I thought it was really interesting. And overall, I know the Arizona Diamondbacks aren't a nationally sexy team. I know a lot of people still don't know who Geraldo Perdomo is, but this was one of the more interesting stories I've worked on in a while. One of the more satisfying stories because there was so much going on here. It was so much interesting background that I would encourage people to read it and just give it a look because yes, it's about the Diamondbacks and it's about Perdomo, and you might not like or care about the Diamondbacks or Perdomo, but there's a lot in here that's just about baseball. And Again, acceptance of teammates, manager-player relationships. It was all pretty interesting to me.
Hey everybody, be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.